remember, if you have questions, please feel free to ask, okay? And then y'all can see my screen?
Yes.
Thank you. What happened? That's weird. Hold on one second. That's really strange. One sec. I have no clue, guys. Sorry. Hold on. That is not what I want to share with y'all. Share. Okay. I think, okay. I think I have everything now. Somebody confirmed to me that they can see the thing that says infection control in micro.
Not anymore. All I
Not,
see is not
okay. I
anymore.
wonder what the heck happened. Hold on. Stop and share. Okay. How about now?
Yes.
All right. All right. Okay. I don't know what in the heck I did. Okay. So let's, I want to make this full screen. But every time I try to move this, aha, okay. All right, and y'all can still see good, right? And I don't know if these chapters are correct for y'all. That might be from my old, from Houston. All right, let me move this out of the way. So the first thing we're going to get started about is a basic. I combine these two chapters because they really they flow together, and it makes it so much easier to learn the two together, because so much of micro depends on infection control, and infection and the understanding of infection control depends on micro. So that's why I kind of merge these together. All right. So the first term that we're going to learn and that you'll want to know, and if you notice, I put up a two Quizlets, and Quizlet's an excellent source that you can, there's flashcards already made for you. So you can click on those, you can study the terms. There's also matching games that you can play. You can even give yourself tests and quizzes through the Quizlet site. So it's a great opportunity to enhance your learning. And there's also a Kahoot that I've put together for these two combined chapters. So the first thing we're going to talk about is, what is a pathogen? Okay, but before we can talk about a pathogen, we need to know what a microorganism is. Okay, so this is where things, and everybody's like, huh? Well, we have microorganisms everywhere. Anything that you can touch, anything that you can see, anything that you can't even see, there's microorganisms. Microorganism, the word micro, is because you can't view it with the eye. The only way that you're going to be able to view it is with a microscope. And some of them are so incredibly tiny that it takes a very specific type of microscope to even see them. All right. So microorganisms are everything. They're everywhere. And so where a lot of misconception is people think microorganisms, ooh, that's bad. No, because um, microorganisms are pathogenic, but not all microorganisms are harmful to us or our body or to one specific person. So this is, oops, sorry. Let me go back here. So this is why we come to the word pathogen. When we talk about a microorganism that causes infection, that causes disease, causes sickness, that messes up our flora, this is a pathogen. Okay? So pathogen equals something negative or bad to the specific host. And it gets complicated because just because one person might be extremely sensitive to, pathogen X, another person could have it and it not bother them because every single human being is different. Now we know for, let's take COVID for instance. It would be a pathogen. And we know that uh, um, one out of every 2,000 people since COVID has started has died that got it. So that means 1,999 people got it and survived. How severe they got it, or some of them basically had like a cold or like a cough and they were fine. Some people had no symptoms at all. Other people had respiratory failure, had their whole body shut down, and had to be put on life support. And they survived, so they're still considered, a survivor and not a victim or casualty. So COVID's a perfect example of how our bodies can be the same human, but each one is individual. And that's important when we think about the immune system. Okay. And in a healthy person, so your average person walking down the street, their immune system has like a defense barrier around them. And it basically is like the shields in all Star Wars movies when they can put up their little defense bubbles on their spaceship. So what a healthy person has, where they're able to protect themselves from outside pathogens. And I want you to write this down. One of our greatest protectors is our skin. And skin actually is our largest organ. And when it's intact, it does an amazing job of keeping pathogens out. All right. So our skin is our biggest source of protection right away. Because if we didn't have skin, everything you can imagine the rate of infections and so forth. That's why we see such high death rates with burn victims. All right. We also, once we look past our skin, we have got an immune system. And our immune system is amazing because it is a network, and we'll get into this, of vessels and cells and very unique structures that allow us to build armies and store troops in case a pathogen tries to invade our body. All right. And hopefully that's making sense so far. Now, a person who has an immune system deficit, or their immune system is not perfect, they are at a higher risk of getting infections, the infections that they get being more deadly or causing more complications. So the people that we tend to really focus on when a pandemic like this is going on are usually our babies, our kids, our elderly, and are immunocompromised. And those are the three people, or the three sets of people that are usually the highest at risk. Now, COVID, there's a lot of misconceptions with it that, oh, it doesn't affect children. That's not the case. Children do get, there's been over 100,000 children in the last 2 weeks who've tested positive. Most of them haven't had really bad symptoms. That's really good. But a few have, and there's actually been multiple deaths from the Kawasaki's like syndrome. Then children that the corona acts like an inflammation response, and it's deadly. But for the most part, we're seeing children do extremely well with this pathogen. Um, your job as a medical assistant is to control pathogens. When you're probably asking, well, how in the heck do I control a pathogen if I can't even see it? And the easiest and the best way that we're going to do that is by first and foremost washing our hands. And I know that that's something that you've been hearing ever since, you were old enough to, talk and understand, is wash your hands and keep your hands clean. And it's because clean hands reduce the chances of getting and spreading infection. Now, with the current pandemic and the current issue that we have, washing our hands is not enough. We also have, because it is a respiratory based, an air droplet based virus, we have to wear masks. So, as a medical assistant, you can do these things. You can have your patient wear a mask. You can have your patient wash their hands. You can sanitize and disinfect all of the surfaces in your office. You can keep the chances of somebody who came in with something pathogenic spreading to someone else by your diligence of keeping things clean. All right. And it's something else. And if I don't get anything else across to you, I want to stress this part right here and right now. You are going in, and this year is a more, it may, I've never taught in a year where this information was so vital. This is my first pandemic. As a paramedic, from all the years that I worked, I would work 24-hour shifts, and my uniform consisted of a pair of steel-toed, like army boots, medic pants with lots of pockets, and various types of shirts. And they uh, it wasn't a cute, anything like soft scrubs or anything, but it was what I needed as a paramedic. But I had a very smart friend of mine who happens to be a doctor now tell me, hey, I got some advice for you. One of the very first days that I was going for one of my externs said, before you go home, what I want you to do is make sure that you have washed your hands. When you get inside the house, take your boots off outside. And then when you get in, don't hug anyone. Don't do anything until you go to the bathroom. Completely change out of your clothes. If you can, shower. And then make sure you wash your hands all over again after you've put your laundry up. And this person told me, by doing that, you're guaranteeing that you're not bringing things home to your family. And that impact really, really stuck with me. Uh, but at the time I was told this, I was 19. So, I was just like, okay, but I still had a mom and a grandma and that kind of stuff, and I didn't want to get any of them ill. But you think about that now. When you do go to extern and you do go to your job sites, um, we are going to get over COVID, but there will always be another pandemic waiting. That's facts. There'll always be harmful pathogens that we could take home. So if you follow those simple things of I know the first thing your baby wants to do is run in when they see, I know mine, because I wasn't gone for 24-hour shifts. And the first thing they wanted to do was come and give me a hug. And we had a rule. They couldn't do that. Mommy had to clean up. And they got used to it over time. And it became the way that they knew, oh, we don't want cooties. And that's how you need, if you have children, if you have loved ones at home, you need to explain to them that this is part of, not only me keeping you safe, but keeping everybody else in the entire house safe as well. Okay. So that's a really good habit that I want you all to keep in the back of your mind. Okay. Now, what is the term asepsis? You want to write this down. We very rarely will ever achieve asepsis because that means it is a state of being completely free of any microorganisms, meaning there's no germs, there's no virus, there's no bacteria, there's no fungus, there's nothing. It's completely sterile, and that term is asepsis, okay? And I can think of a few places that we might see that. One, hopefully, is in the operating room where they're about to cut you open. We're hoping that they've got that incision site aseptic. And we're hoping that the tools that they use during your surgery are asepsis and have been completely free of any microbial life. And later on during this chapter, we'll talk about how they achieve that and how you can achieve that as an MA. So this is a term, asepsis, meaning there's no microorganisms. There's nothing. Okay? We've seen this slide. And I leave this like this because I want everyone to understand microorganisms are pathogens, but not all of them are going to be harmful to us. And I know this seems confusing. It'll make more sense as we move on. These organisms, like I said, they're so tiny they can only be viewed with a microscope. Not all of them, this relates back up to this, cause disease. Actually, a lot of the microorganisms that we have on our body are beneficial. A lot of the ones that we have in our gut are beneficial. And we're finding out more and more about these beneficial microorganisms. All right. And this is one of your Survey Monkey. The 4 types of microorganisms. Okay, so we are going to learn about bacteria, fungi, protozoa, and viruses. All right, bacteria or the bacterial is the study of any type of bacteria, whether it's bacteria that we associate with animals, surfaces, humans, this kind of thing. It's any form of it. And we already know one fact about bacteria. We know one fact is what? Bacteria we have antibiotics for. right? So we can usually treat and get people well with bacterial infections. Sometimes the infection's gone on for too long. Sometimes that person becomes resistant, which we're going to talk about. Sometimes their immune system's not strong enough. So people do die from bacterial infections, okay? But for the most part, if we went back, 300 years, if you got a bacterial infection, then you were most of the time you were toast. So you didn't make it. Fungi, this is like your, believe it or not, we call this study mycology. And fungi actually fit into, when you think of mushrooms and funguses and stuff, that's the family. They're all in the same family. And you need to know this term, mycology, because mycology means the study of fungus. Okay? Protozoa we're going to learn about as a water-based. And when we study about that, it's called protozoology. And then viruses, and the study of that is virology. Okay? So make sure you understand that. Like I said, that is one of your Survey Monkey. And then this is one of your Survey Monkey questions as well. Then what is a normal flora? I like to think about it like this. Inside of me, because my normal flora is completely different than everyone else's. Your normal flora is completely different than everyone else's. So our normal flora means all of the microorganisms that we have inside and outside our body that's not causing us harm, that's actually either just chilling or benefiting. That's normal flora. Okay? And normal flora is part of homeostasis. And that's what the whole purpose of the human body from the time we're born to the time we die is our body's trying to maintain homeostasis. Think of it like a teeter-totter. And when one thing goes too high, something tries to balance it, if something vice versa, right? Normal flora helps keep homeostasis. All right. So let me give you an example of that. So if we have microorganisms that are part of our normal flora on our skin, in our urinary system, in our stomach, especially in our respiratory tract, everywhere. And usually, like I said, these are very, very beneficial. Now, there are some of our normal flora that needs to stay in their lane. They need to stay where they were meant to be. And one of the perfect examples of that is E. coli. Because I say E. coli and everybody goes, ah, right? Throw away your onions and your lettuce and everything else. But what if I told you actually have E. coli in your colon and it's really beneficial? It's actually part of your flora that keeps really bad microorganisms from taking over. But if I'll give you, and here's a perfect example. So what we know the stuff that processes through our digestive system ends up coming out where? When we poo. So if we have fecal matter and we don't wipe properly, and this is why Girl Rule 101, number one, you wipe from the front to the back. And the whole reason with that is because when we do defecate or poo, we get rid of a lot of bacteria as well that's been used and not needed anymore. And one of the reasons that some people get really severe urinary and kidney infections is because they didn't wipe properly, or they didn't have what's the very, I'm trying to put this into a very politically correct way. They started in one way and went in a different way during sexual relations, and that's a no-no. You can start in one and go to the other, but you can't go to the other and then go to the other. I hope that makes sense, but that's just the case. And a lot of people don't realize that. And that's a really great way to spread infection. And it's a really big way to cause things like E. coli of the kidneys. And we know that when E. coli gets in the kidneys, it wrecks it. It can cause kidney failure. So we want to make sure we keep that normal flora of E. coli in the colon, like I said, in its lane, doing its job. We don't want it anywhere else. This is why examples, if you have an appendicitis issue and you don't go to the doctor and it ruptures, well, you have bacteria in there that's helpful, but you sure the heck don't want it spreading all around on your insides and getting mixed with, other parts of the body. So that's why appendicitis can be deadly. We need to maintain balance, and we need to maintain that homeostasis. And our normal flora does that by using helpful microorganisms like E. coli and like funguses and like certain bacterias. And they work with our body to keep us safe from deadlier microorganisms that could be pathogenic to us. I'm at 30 minutes. Anybody? I know this is a lot to take in. What are questions for right now? And there's silence. Nobody? We're good? Okay, I'm going to go ahead and go to we're going to go to the next slide. This is a pretty breakfast slide. This is, remember, I don't know if it was your class or one of my classes, but I always told you all diabetic patients should have their shoes taken off when they come in. And this is a perfect example of a diabetic foot. Because we know it, and we're going to learn about that this mod too. When you have diabetes, you have less circulation, less blood flow, less feeling to your lower extremities, especially the feet. So if you cut yourself or you get an infection, you may not even know. So a good doctor will always have their diabetic patients take off their socks and shoes and take a look at their feet. All right. So, but this picture is to talk to you about how do microorganisms grow. This is important. I want you to write this down. I want you to highlight this, okay? Because microorganisms love moist, dark, warm places. So think about your foot. Most of the time, is it in a sock and a shoe? Yeah. And is that getting, especially here in Florida, is that getting hot and wet and funky? Yep. So if you have a wound, you've got probably some kind of bacteria, fungus, or something that's on your surface of your skin. And if it gets in there, it's going to wreak havoc. So because it is moist, dark, and warm. What else is this? The whole entire inside of our body is moist, dark, and warm. So we are a perfect environment to grow um, pathogens and microorganisms. All right. And I'm gonna leave with these two terms, explain this, and then we're gonna end the lecture for the day. But when we think about microorganisms, we're we're uh, we're trying to find out. A lot of the times, somebody comes in and says, "This is wrong and this is wrong," and I like to think of the medical field, the science field, laboratory as like the Scooby-Doo mystery gang, because a lot of times you're just given a whole, clue here and a clue here and a clue there, and you've got to put them together to come up with a um, a reasonable uh, uh, conclusion that, aha, this is the culprit or this is the person, um, when they, pulled the mask off. And a lot of times, this is an easy thing to do. A patient walks in, 7 years old, had a fever and tiny little spots all over their arms and this and that. And they'd been, oh, well, my neighbor their kids had chicken pox. Oh, that's a pretty one easy, right? That's not too much Scooby-Dooing right there. Chickenpox, okay. So, but a lot of other things, especially with older patients and patients with immunocompromised issues and stuff, it's not that cut and dry. It's not that easy. So we need to start breaking down and trying to figure out the first step of microbiology is trying to identify what microorganism we're dealing with. Because I could look at this foot and I could say it's this or it's that, but there's no real way for me to know until we do a culture, send it to the lab, have the lab process it, and give us back the results. So the first thing when that lab gets that culture, it's going to do one or two things. It's going to decide, is this pathogen that we have here that the doctor sent us, is it aerobic or is it anaerobic? Because say we have a million different things it could be. By finding out if it's aerobic or anaerobic, we just cut it in half. We just split it and narrowed it down, right? So that's a really big step of gathering more clues and eliminating possible suspects. Okay? So the way that I remember this is kind of cheesy, but aerobic, when you do aerobics, what are you doing? With my fat self, I'd be all out of breath, panting and breathing and needing a ton of oxygen, right? And that's how I remember. And you need to remember this. Aerobic microorganisms require O2 to live. All right? So aerobics make you out of breath, and out of breath, you need more oxygen, right? So aerobic require O2. Anaerobic do not require O2 to live. Okay? Those are the two that's that first thing we do. And when the lab or the microbiologist or the pathologist or whoever gets it, they say, okay, what is this we're dealing with? Aha, it's aerobic, or aha, it's anaerobic. And that helps really limit down what they're dealing with. Does that make sense? If it doesn't, please let me know. Well, I'm going to take it that it does. Okay, so we're going to end here. Does anybody have any questions? No? Okay. All right. Well, then what I'm going to do is I got a couple of videos that I'm going to be posting for y'all in Teams. I'm also going to put up a homework assignment. It's going to be a small one since we've only got today through Friday. And I'm going to uh, continue this lecture. We'll be doing lectures uh, for this mod almost every single day. And the reason is because of that, what I sent y'all, showing you. We cover so many important things this mod: infection control and micro and the endocrine system and the nervous system. So we have 4 weeks to do that. So lots of lectures, lots of retaining of information. And while I have you, if you are virtual lab, you know, it is, I see some of the answers that y'all are putting and I love it. That lets me know you understand the video because I handpick. It's not like I randomly just go and grab some video. Y'all don't know, I work all the time, even, you know, off the clock and everything, to find that perfect video so that when I put it on there, you know, you're like, oh, okay, all right. And so that you can get the best insight on uh, how, you know, the hands-on and stuff. And this is really tough because of the situation that we're in right now. We're faced with, you know, just, you know, virtual type of lab situation. So by you responding to the videos that I put that say online lab, that allows me to get that you understand. Okay. So keep doing that. Keep making them comments. That's excellent. And it also goes towards your grade. And a lot of, I had about, I don't know, 16 people message me, you know, hundreds. They want to know, how do you maintain 100? Having 100 is tough. And um, there were, I'd say out of the 60 students I have right now, I think I had maybe 3 who had 100. And 100 would means that you're there for every lecture, that you respond to things, that you turn everything in on time, that I don't ever have to remind you about SurveyMonkey, that you always get those turned in on time, all those things, okay? And there are a few people who have done that. It just, you know, but like I said, so if that's something you want, you can work for it. But don't beat yourself up over a 95 or 96 or something, because that's really good. The work that we're doing and the things that we're covering, they're not easy. All right. So make sure you give yourself credit where that credit's due. Okay. And I'll see y'all tomorrow. Have a wonderful day. Make sure when we hang up, you actually hit the hang up so the video will download, and then I'll upload it through YouTube, okay? Bye, guys.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.